30-second, my little 30-second fancy intro. So we just get straight to live here. Hello, everybody. It's Ken Stearns, and welcome to we're calling it the Jar Foundation podcast still, but I think we're going to switch up the name to today, Mental Health Today. And this one will be Mental Health Today with Jeff Johnston. And Jeff and I were just chatting offline, and we're kind of don't know each other yet. And so we're both podcasters, and we've been sharing, I think, a great kind of a pre-chat around how do you end up in these chairs? And we both have our own story.
Yeah.
But Jeff, today it's going to be all about you. Thanks for being a guest.
Oh, thank you. I'm so honored to be able to have this conversation and to meet another person that I can consider a friend. Which is, I pinch myself often about how fortunate I am to be in this position to do what I do and to take this long. It took me my life to really find my passion and my purpose. And
I love that.
I'm really honored to be here. I'm excited to share my story and see if somebody can take a few things away and make their life better.
What were you doing before all this? I mean, where you from originally? And give us a little, like, where you're from. I love that kind of what the family was like, that roots.
Yeah, I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the Midwest. So
in the chair,
flyover country, I'm 56. I'll be 57 in a couple weeks. But, I started my previous life at 23 as a financial advisor. That's where I got started. I wanted to be a basketball coach in college. I played a couple years of college basketball, and realized after a couple of years that, I kind of wanted to make more money. So I went into accounting for like a week and got murdered. And I did what a lot of accounting flunkies do. We either go to marketing or finance. So I ended up just changing again really quick over to finance. And I'm happy I did. I learned a lot about money and finances and the economy. And so I got into essentially the insurance industry right out of college and sold life insurance door to door in the late 80s, early 90s. It was brutal, absolutely brutal. Hindsight's the best thing that could have happened to me.
Absolutely.
Just, literally getting doors slammed on your face. I felt like the Jehovah's Witness for a while out there knocking on doors trying to sell life insurance. And, I gained a lot of undeterred personality, I think, came from my days in selling an intangible idea to somebody.
I really agree. And I actually I kind of identify because I was an agent on the street.
Yeah.
We'll have that conversation later.
I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy at the time, but now I think every kid should do it as part of their curriculum to grow up.
Agree. You'll grow up fast.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then, I made a lot of money. I spent a lot of money, met my wife, we got married. She brought a beautiful child to the equation, Seth. He was, I think, like 3 when I met him, raised him, great, just a great son. And then we had 2 others, Ian and Roman. So fast forward, age 50, I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm on top of the pinnacle, driving a fancy car, big house, traveling the world, happily married, 21 years, beautiful wife, Prudence, 3 boys, coach. I'm the pillar of the community. I'm in Rotary. I'm donating money. I'm setting you up. I'm setting you up here, though.
You are crushing it, aren't you?
Yeah, the fall's coming.
Come on, no.
Oh yeah, yeah, pretty drastic. And so behind the scenes, I was an alcoholic, 5-6 days a week. Functional alcoholic. I never blacked out. I had 1 drunk driving a long time ago. It's off my record. But it's just, I was becoming something I didn't aspire to be. I was, hungover a lot, stomach problems. I was 40 pounds overweight. My wife and I never argued, but, drinking, you can't get real close when you're drinking. And she was drinking a lot during this time as well. So, and then everything changed. October 4th, 2016 was the beginning of my new life. I got a call that every parent dreads, and they found our oldest son, Seth, dead from an overdose. At the age of 23, he died from fentanyl.
Fuck.
Yeah. And so there I was on top of the mountain, soon to be laying on my back on the bottom of the abyss, you
Hmm.
know. And I could see it coming because Seth had a long 6 year, started at 16 with Adderall for attention deficit. It just manifested into, you know, alcohol, marijuana, you know, drunk drivings, breaking and enterings, cocaine. And then he was in prison for a while and got out. And within 60 days, heroin laced with fentanyl. It was over. And so that day, death came into my life as an opportunity to become a better man, not a bitter man. And that's initially how I spun it to my other two boys. The day I told them that their brother died, he died actually a mile away from where my middle son was competing for golf districts that day. So in my book, I write about this at length about that day. You know, I was dropping Ian off, you know, getting the clubs out, you know, all the kids were getting ready to play. And I get the call at 6:30 and I looked at my phone. I thought, I know this call from this person this isn't good. And I got the news that Seth died as I was looking into Ian's eyes. And I basically just decided I wasn't going to tell Ian because it was his big day as a sophomore. He was the number one golfer. The team was trying to get to state for the first time in school history. And I just felt I didn't want to impede his dream. I didn't want to just kill the dream right there because obviously Ian couldn't have played that day and it would have affected the team. And Seth wasn't going to come back. He was dead. So I said to myself, I'll just tell him when he gets home. So I got in my car and I thought, how am I going to tell my wife? You know, our son is dead.
Jesus. Yeah.
And it was the worst fucking day of my life. I mean, I can't even put it into words. And I got home and I came around the corner and she's all dressed in her black and orange and ready to go, Mom. And I'm shaking and trembling and I can't talk. And I just say 3 words. I say, Seth is dead. And I fell. And boy, you can imagine what happened. And we got ourselves up and we drove to the hotel and they had the yellow tape around. And here it is, you know, less than a mile away. Our other son's teeing off on the first tee for districts, you know,
Goodness.
and where's Mom and Dad? And they're at a hotel room identifying his brother. And you know, so that was the beginning of my new life. And so the boys came home and I talk about this in my book. It's a chapter called The Two Roads. And I sat them down and I said, boys, I have some terrible news. Your brother's dead. And the first thing my middle son, Dean, said, how'd he die, Dad? Drugs? He knew. He just knew. I said, yeah, drugs. And you could hear a pin drop. And then something happened. I had that old athlete in me that kind of like that coach mentality. I thought, okay, these are the life moments that when you ask somebody to marry you and you have children and you commit to that life, it's like you have life moments where you're going to have like 2 to 4 over your whole life that words that come out of your mouth will set the tone for the rest of your life. And this was it. This was my life moment. I was on the goal line. I couldn't fumble the ball, right? I had to say something impactful. So I stood up. I cleared my voice. I didn't rehearse this at all. I don't know where it came from. I said, boys, we have one of 2 roads to go down. We have one road of anger, despair, and hatred. We'll become alcoholics and addicts ourselves, or we have a road of inspiration and motivation. And this can be the single greatest moment in our lives and those around us to make a difference. I'm on the second road. I ask you to join me. And I thought, wow, Jeff, that's pretty damn good, man. Good job.
Who said that?
Yeah, I said it. And I couldn't believe I said it. And
that wasn't me though.
And my boys did great. My boys were amazing. I could tell you a whole podcast on what they've done. And you know, my son Ian's raised thousands of dollars through golf. They have a scholarship named after him. They had an award named after him while he was still in high school. In college, he went and played golf at South Dakota. He got the Courage Award last year for raising money for mental health advocacy and things. And my other son, Roman, he's on our board of directors and he's 19. So my 2 boys leaned into it. But the problem, Ken, is I didn't. And I called my company up the next day and I said, I'm not coming to work for a year. I own the company, so I could do that. That's one thing I'm grateful for. A lot of people can't. They have to go back to teach. They got to go be doctors. They got to be police people. They got to be firemen. I had that opportunity where I could stay home. But you know what I did, Ken, is for a year and a half, I drank every frickin' day. My wife and I got drunk every day. I put on, I don't know, I was up to 195 pounds at one point. Never had suicidal ideation at that point, but I didn't want to live. I just didn't want to do anything. And I called all my negative friends that I could find in my head and said, hey, I got a huge pity party coming. Come on over. We're going to get drunk and be negative. And so that's what I did. And on December 24th, 2017, like a lot of people, I just got up in the morning and looked in the mirror after a night of drinking with my wife. And I said, I'm done. and that was 5 years ago, and I haven't had a drop since. And it's the easiest thing I've ever done in my life as a full-blown alcoholic for 32 years. I don't call myself sober because that implies I'm in a fight. I just choose not to drink. And if I drank today, I wouldn't say I fell off the wagon. I would just say I chose to drink today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very easy. It's been very simple for me. But again, I was a full-blown alcoholic. And I really thought that my quitting would be a really good thing for my wife because I noticed she was getting worse as well. We both were really bad. But it didn't work out that way, man. Death entered my life again. On June 29th, 2021, my wife died of alcoholism at the age of 46. So death knocked on my door again as an opportunity to become a better man, not a bitter man. And yeah. And so, that hit me hard because my wife was just the most beautiful soul I had ever met. And, they both came into my life together and they both left together. And so I couldn't allow my sons to lose their brother, their mom, and their dad. So for me, it was time to change the world. And
time to man up.
That's what I did. So I did my podcast. I started my podcast, Living Undeterred, 3 years ago. I did my book. I bought an RV last year, and I went around the United States for 95 days with my 2 boys and 38 nonprofits in 35 states. And we just talked, we just met, we hugged, we cried, we just talked about mental health. We're planning this tour again. We're scaling it down. 95 days almost killed me. But I got a documentary crew that we documented it, and I'm going to put together a documentary probably next summer when I have some time. Not about me, but about as I started telling my story, I realized pretty quickly that the beauty of vulnerability is it gives people permission to tell their stories. So I think what's happened in my life at now 56 is that by sharing my story, as painful as it is, it gives people an opportunity now to share their story. Yes. And that's the beauty of the journey I'm on, is just constant sharing of all areas of mental health, whether it's suicide or sex abuse or gambling addiction or alcoholism. It's something that vulnerability is that thing I think that's going to get us out of this mess, is talking about it. The connection, having intimate human conversations with people is important. So yeah, so that is, a big thrust of what I did. I bought an hour of airtime here in a local radio station. So tonight in 2 hours, I have my weekly show called the Living Undeterred Mental Health Hour. It's a live call-in show. We're doing we're doing pathways to recovery. Last week we did women in recovery. So every week I have guests on that I met from my tour or just advocates I know. I bought the hour myself. It's expensive, but I only have 2 sponsors. But another thing I'm grateful for, Ken, is I'm in a pretty good financial position with my career I had as an investment advisor. This is funny. I'm rambling. That's my attention deficit. But
no, you're doing great. It's great flow.
So I decided that very quickly that I was kind of done with investments and doing that I could do more to leave my footprint on humanity by not peddling IRAs and, no load mutual funds. So I sold my investment company. I'm in the process of closing the deal in a couple months, and the money I'm making and I have made in my life, I'm spending on mental health advocacy. And so I've put in a tremendous amount of money and resources. And in July of this year, I'm launching the nation's first one-page mental wellness app aimed at Gen Z. And we're gonna upset the apple cart on Gen Z mental health with this app. I've been planning on it for 2 years. November, I hired a software development company out of DC. I don't know if you play poker, but my analogy is I'm putting my chips in the table, and I haven't looked at either card yet. But I will tell you right now, I'm staying to the river. I'm not folding this hand. I'm staying all in, and I'm now 56. I'm widowed. My 2 boys are out of the house.
What can happen?
This is my home. I don't date. This is my home, and this is what I want to do. And it's by choice. I'm not looking for people to feel sorry for me. That ship has sailed. Sympathy and pity ship is actually, crashed and sank. I want love. I want compassion. I want empathy. I want courage. I want strength. But I'm not going to lie to you. The Christmas after my wife died, I had a gun to my head, out of my safe, loaded, and I was ready to go. I was at peace. I didn't do it. Obviously, I wouldn't be here. But
Yeah, but I mean, holy cow!
yeah,
There's not many people there's a lot of people that think about suicide to a lot of different levels.
yeah. And
But
I'd never thought about it before.
But to physically hold the
Yeah.
gun.
And I never planned it before. It was over Christmas, and my wife had died. My mom had died right after her in October, and I was at home alone, and I was going through some stuff, and the first box was like Seth and pictures, and I found a letter. This letter right here, Ken. P.S. Sorry about my handwriting and spelling. This is a letter that Seth wrote my wife and I when he was in prison, and I have it behind me. I made it to the first page, and I've never read the other 2 pages to this moment. And the reason why I won't read it is it's a conversation I get to have with him someday. It's hard. It's so hard to put into words, but it's like if I read it, then there is actually closure. I mean, I have nothing else more to learn about him. So the letter to me is like the moment I get to talk to him again that I'll never have. And so, and that was the weekend that I didn't want to live. And it's the first time I considered suicide. And really what's scary to me is I was really at peace with it. I thought about my other 2 boys and my dad, and I didn't do it, put the gun away. And now I talk about it. And, I don't have anything to hide. I don't have an agenda. I've never made a penny on anything I've ever done in this space. And then the app is the one thing that's the convergence of all my projects, of all my desires, is this app. And that's my story, and I'm honored to be here. I really am. I'm honored to tell this story. I know I don't have to go to work like a lot of people, but I'm not going to take my money I've made and just sit on a beach and sip Mai Tais while I don't drink. But what I'm trying to say, I can't shut off the path I'm on. I just can't. And I get up, I think about it. I go to bed, I think about it. I talk to everybody every day about mental health, and I'm just the luckiest man on the planet right now. I really feel that way. And to meet you, Ken, is an honor. And I know our friendship's going to blossom, and people I'm going to meet from this conversation. And life is beautiful. Life is precious. I'm so freaking happy to be alive. But man, when I cry hard. I cry intense. I cry with pain. But the weight of the tears aren't sorrow and suffering anymore. It's pain, but it's not sorrow and suffering. It's optimism. It's gratitude. It's love. It's empathy. So with that, that's where I'm at. I wouldn't change anything. I miss my son. I miss my wife, but I'm honoring them by living an intentional life full of love and gratitude. And that's how I'm going to die, So thank you. I appreciate this chance.
You said that at the very end, Jeff, and it's something that stuck with me for all the stories that I sat down with, right? I got 200 people 200 interviews in last year, the face-to-face, and all, regardless of the story. And there were some stories where why would you want to relive that? Why would you not let that go? And everybody, I wouldn't change a thing.
Well, you know what happens if you know what happens if I stop talking about them, Ken? Then they die.
Well, you die twice, right?
Yeah, and that's not going to happen on my watch.
You die
and so
twice.
My app I'm launching this summer is called Brightn, and our tagline is "Let us brighten your life."
Love it.
And well, there's a story to this.
There's a backstory to the name.
Yeah, when Seth died, his daughter was born 3 weeks later. He never met his daughter. Her name is Brightn. Her name is Brightn. And every time I pick her up, I say, Brightn, you brighten my day. I love you so much. And I always say, where's your daddy? And she says, in my heart. And I say, yeah, he is. And he's in my heart. And I get his cologne out and I spray it all over her so she can smell like her dad. And it's just like full of love and full of gratitude. And I just, so Brightn is the name of our mental health app. And I may run out of money, I may run out of time, but I guarantee you I'm not going to run out of passion. That's not going to happen, and like I said earlier when I first met you, I pinched myself how lucky I am to be where I'm at, and how lucky I was to meet Prudence and to meet Seth and to be a part of their life, and to witness the worst of times and to be there for the best of times. And um, I wouldn't change a thing. I really wouldn't. I don't torture myself with feeling like I could have done more or guilt. What I've done is I've tried to look back, Ken, and learn from the mistakes I made, not punish myself from the mistakes I made. There's a massive difference there. So if I go back in hindsight and I play the what if game, which we all do
Oh,
because
goodness.
we're human, but I don't do it to punish myself, but I do it to learn.
It's a great point. It's a great
What
point.
could I have done when that doctor said, "Hey, Seth, Mr. Johnston, your son has attention deficit. He looks out the window and thinks about girls." I'm like, okay, what 15-year-old boy doesn't,
Yeah.
Or maybe they think about men. I don't know. My youngest son's gay, so I don't know. But nonetheless, it's like, what child doesn't have attention deficit? Give me a break. But I
Right.
allowed a doctor to give him Adderall. That's on me. That's not
Mm.
on Seth. That's not even on my doctor. That's on me. So what can I do with that nugget of wisdom, right? I don't know. Learn
Yep.
more about Adderall, learn more about how much is prescribed, learn why it's prescribed, learn what attention deficit is. So I'm a sponge of consuming knowledge right now. I'm not an
I
advocate for an
love it.
agenda. I'm not I'm not anti anything except hate and those type of things, but I'm just all about learning. And so I'm an open book now. I'm not an angry fentanyl dad. I'm not a abstinence is the only way dad. I'm an open book, and I really want to try to find whatever I can find. So that moment in time when a child says, "I'm going to smoke pot," or "I'm not going to smoke pot," I want to be in their head when they flip that
Mm.
switch. And that's where I'm at. That's what I want to try to figure out is,
And that, yeah, how is the app going to work on this?
yeah, the app
What's the
apps.
what's the idea behind the app? How does it framed?
Yeah, what I did is I took my financial services industry career, and the big thing we talked about for investing was diversification, right?
Yeah.
So basically, people have stocks, bonds, and real estate. Well, we don't diversify with mental wellness, especially with kids. So
We don't have
I
anything.
have 3 asset classes for mental wellness, and that's health, wealth, and purpose. So
Okay.
what I've done with our app is we've structured it to be educational and autonomous. So kids are building their own, when I trademarked as a personal wellness portfolio. So I'm going to introduce the portfolio concept to kids through mental wealth planning, because
I love this.
most kids have a very unhealthy relationship with money, and they learn that from their parents, because 67% of parents live paycheck to paycheck. So we wonder why Gen Z is the most financially illiterate generation of all time. A lot of it's because their home, 70% of them
Yeah.
are living paycheck to paycheck. Mom and dad are fighting about money. So that's what kids see. Then they go to TikTok and see YouTubers driving Lamborghinis. They have a very skewed
Yeah.
relationship with money. So when they finally do get it, they don't do anything constructive with it. So we
Yep.
want to get kids in a position so they have a healthy relationship with money prior to when they're making it.
And this portfolio, I mean, I
Yeah.
love that concept. It's just such an easy.
Yeah. I lost your volume. Sorry again. Yeah. I can see it fine. I just can't hear you. Yeah. I'll stay on and let you kind of. Yeah. I still can't hear you. It sounded like there was a little beeping noise and then it just went dead, but I see you fine.
Hmm.
There, now I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
we're good.
back.
We're good to go. But
It's
yeah, so
kind of,
just
yeah.
about the app, it's like, I want to get kids in a position where they can autonomously build the mental wealth portfolio. And why is autonomously important? Well, if you come home with your kids and say, "Hey, here's a mental health app. I want you to use it." They're not going to use it, right?
No.
If I buy a car for my kid, they're probably not going to take care of it as much as if they would have put their own money into it, you know?
Absolutely.
So I think that's the same with mental wellness. And I think if kids can take the time initially to build their mental wellness plan, I think they're a lot more likely to engage with it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's on the phone.
Yeah.
Now, how would we get it to people? Is that
Well,
through
right now
schools
it's not
or
out. It's
through?
not out till July, Ken.
Yeah, but what are you thinking? What's the thinking? That you're really thinking on how to
Well, we have
engage
a
people
landing
with?
page. If people, I don't know how to type on this, but if you wanted to type in it's www, and I'll say it, then I'll spell it. It's brightnyourlife.com. So it's
Yeah,
www
see
dot,
where I can. Yeah, let me try to
yeah,
find the. Hang on one sec. Let me see if I can find the comments. There we go. Oh, we got some little comments going.
yeah, I saw them. I appreciate Jess and
Oh,
James and
oh, that's
their
great.
comments. Yep.
Okay, so sorry. www.
Yep. Dot, and then brighten your life. So it's BRIGHTN yourlife.com. We took the O out because that's how Brightn spelled her name with an O. So it's
I love it.
BRIGHTN yourlife.com.
En, right?
No, it's just BRIGHTN.
Got it. Oh, I didn't see the comments going. Wow, fantastic. Love it.
Yep,
Thanks, everybody.
brightnyourlife.com. So that's our landing page. BRIGHTN. Yep, yourlife.com. So people can leave their email there, and then when we get closer to launch, we'll have you on the list of being notified and everything. But yeah, we want to hit schools, we want to get high schools, we want to get colleges. We have an NBA basketball player that was the 4th pick in the NBA draft. That's going to be one of our brand ambassadors. His name's Keegan Murray.
Fantastic.
He starts for the Sacramento Kings. He's going to be, I coached him for a couple years as a child. So him and his twin brother are going to
Oh,
be,
okay.
yeah, they're going to help us lean into this mental health as an opportunity. And kids will listen to kids. They won't listen to you and I.
No,
They'll
no.
listen to other kids. So it's important for me to get an army of Gen Zers that are interested in mental wellness that can help us promote this, not just the app, but just promote peer-to-peer support for other
Right.
Gen Zers. It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Though I, the story, I mean, the birth of the idea,
Yeah.
right? And the process of that, of how you came to this place is, man, that's a tough road. That's a tough road. It sounds like like you talked about being all in until the
Yeah.
river. Now you burned your boats.
I
I
did.
kind of, I,
I did.
I,
I have no
you know,
plan B. I have
I,
zero.
I mean, most people land on shore and then they burn the boats, but you seemingly came ashore with the boats flaming, Jeff. I mean,
Yeah. I was building the boats on the water.
and you lit them. I think you lit them offshore a few miles, uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
jumped out about a mile offshore.
But
You really are
the beauty
fully
of all
down the
this,
road.
Ken, is I'm not anything special. I'm just a guy. I'm just a dad from
I
Iowa, and if everyone watching this can take their own life, find their own metaphor, their own
Yes.
storyline, doesn't have to be death of a child. I understand most people can't relate to that. Maybe you put your cat down and you don't have any kids, you're not married, but that's the most traumatic thing for you.
Mhm.
Okay, that's your passion. I have a quote that I teach my kids and everybody that follows my story. It's on the back of our t-shirts, and it's a great quote. I think all your followers would really benefit from this. It's purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. Purpose becomes passion
Passion.
when it gets personal. So purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. So all you have to do is think of the most personal things in your
Yes.
life,
Yeah.
and your passion is right there. It's
I,
right there. You
yeah.
just got to go out and do it.
That's a great way to find your purpose.
Yeah, I didn't have any until 50 years old, man. I was your capitalist guy, capitalist male, just I couldn't have a fast enough car, everything was about me, um and then death comes in, and like it does, you live long enough. I mean, I'm sure,
It's
Ken, you've
gonna
had death
it's
into
gonna
your
come
life.
f it's
Yeah.
gonna come find you.
And eventually it'll find me. And I don't want my boys to sit around and become alcoholics because dad died. There's no reason for that.
Yeah.
Um, but so again, it's a journey it won't end until after I'm gone, and then it'll still continue through my 2 boys and all the people I can touch. This is such a viral, and I
I
say viral as
yeah.
in, is it a positive thing?
Yes.
Um, Right. Because I know virus and viral is not a good thing right now. But the reality is that I had a friend the other night, actually Keegan's dad, Kenyon, and we sat down for dinner. And the first thing he said to me, he said, Nate, tell me one thing that's happened good to you today. That's all he said. And I told him, and it's a personal thing between him and I, but I went to Facebook and LinkedIn that night and I made a post and I said, because Kenny and I were talking about this, imagine if every single one of us asked 3
Yeah.
people that question. So Ken, when we're done, before you go to bed, 3 people, me too. And the effect we could have, the ripple impact we could have on and everybody answers that. It has to be something good because the question is, what's the one thing that happened good to you today?
Yes.
You can't answer it bad.
It's not. Yeah, it's not that. It's not an A or B. It's what's
Right.
good.
And just imagine something free, non-pharmaceutical. It's easy. It's clean. It's what we need to be doing more of. Yeah, I lost you again. Sorry. Yeah, it would probably kick on here in about 30 seconds. Last time it was about a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You're back. You're on.
So I think what strikes me when you tell that story is not I kind of lose my thought there, losing I lost the Wi-Fi and I kind of lost my thought.
I've done that
Um,
too.
as you're telling these stories, it's not. Yeah, I really lost my thought. Yeah,
Well,
go back to what
I
you.
was gonna
Yeah,
make a comment. I was reading a quote from James Hiller Thomas said,
yeah.
tears are a weight leaving our soul. That is why we feel so light and tired afterwards. Let me just piggyback on that because the quote I've been saying to our kids when I speak to them, I said, go back and think about the hardest cry you've ever had in your life.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, the hardest cry you ever had in your life. And the next cry you had, and the next cry you had. When have you ever felt worse?
yeah.
Ever,
Never,
ever.
never. Yeah,
The best
never.
workout you've ever had. In the middle of it, it sucks. It's painful. You got one more rep, you got to go. But when you walk out of that gym, do you feel better than when you did before you
Yeah.
walk in?
Oh,
100% of the time.
yeah,
So lean into crying, lean into suffering, lean into pain as a mental health workout. That's what it is. You're not going to feel worse when it's over. It's 100% guaranteed. You're going to feel better because that's what your body's
yeah,
doing. Like he says, that is why we feel so light and tired afterwards. I would add that's why you feel liberated and better as well.
yeah. Yeah, it's draining. It's there's some kind of a physical thing that happens, but also that spirit lifting.
Right.
Right. It is
Yeah. So
both.
there's beauty in it as long as it's not long term. That's the key.
Mm,
Cry hard, but cry short, your
yeah.
duration.
James picked up, actually, it's weird. My thought that I lost, James picked it up. Which is that it's not so much them telling the story, but it's people listening to them.
mm,
And what he's talking about, that eye contact with a stranger and hearing, truly being
yeah.
heard.
Yeah. That's good.
Truly being heard is so powerful. And it's so weird that he's actually typed exactly what my thought lost and it turned into his keyboard. Thanks, James. It's great.
I had someone come up to me after a talk and they said, Jeff, I admire your courage and all that. They said, but how can like the death of a child and death of your wife, be
Mm,
something that happened for you, instead of something that happened to you?
yes.
Great question. And I kind of thought for a minute and I said, and my answer was, what I say now at the end of my talks is I said, you know, it must be for me. Because if it's not for me, then it's to me. And if it's to me, I'm on the bitter road. And the
Be,
thing is I'm
yeah,
on the better road.
back to your bitter road.
So because of that in its own self, that's why this is for me. So anybody out there that's going through something, if you can reframe it as this has happened for me, not
Mm,
there's a big difference between things happen for a reason and something happened for me. And I'll tell you why. I don't believe things happen for a reason. Like
I
that's
agree.
I
I
don't.
agree.
I don't.
I
I
agree.
believe we find our reason in the things that happen to us. So
Agree.
again, and I wrote my first blog ever was things don't happen for a reason. And again, that's just me. I'm not why in the hell would my son die for a reason?
Yeah. There's no.
Jesus, give me a break. It's like, I don't believe that at all. So it's, you know what? I'm going to find a reason. I'm going to make up. If one doesn't exist, I'm going to fabricate one. I'm going to make a reason up. And that's my mindset. So my wife died. Okay. Am I looking around for someone to give me a sign? Tell me why she died. No, I'm going to find out myself, and I'm going to do what I can to help people not have to ever go through what I went through again, period. That's my mindset. So again, if things happen for a reason and that's what you believe, then fine, great. Your reason will be revealed. For those of us that don't believe that, we have to go find our own reasons. And so you do that through advocacy, you do that through service, you do it through love, you do it through connection, vulnerability. The sky's the limit.
It's what you do with it. I've always felt it was this kind of globbish piece of clay.
Yeah, I like that.
That you're kind of handed, right? And you're meant to make something out of it. You're meant to find out what it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to mold it into what it is. What are you going to use? What are you going to do with that? What do you do?
Yeah.
And I just had a conversation with somebody, and it is all about like, what are you going to do with this? It's a door's open. It's another door in a way. I mean, the door, good always does, not say, oh, good always, but good can come from these tragedies. And a lot of times, if you look at it, hindsight in our lives, we do make something out of it.
I would say more than can, it must.
It must, yeah.
It must. It must. And whether you have to make up your own way, then so be it. But I think too many people, something happens and they just, well, yeah, maybe I'm just fortunate that I've had the ability to reframe. I don't know. I don't know where this comes from, to be honest with you.
Don't forget though, you stood up and you said there's two roads.
Yeah.
And then you said you're going to go down the one road, and then you actually in the middle of the night you snuck back and you went down the other road.
I was on the road. I told my kids not to go down.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you convinced them. You threw the breadcrumbs down the road, and then in the middle of the night you hauled ass back down the other road for a ways.
Right.
So it's not. I mean, shit. Even if you say it and it's comes from, like you said, it came through you.
Yeah.
Do you look back on that? Like, where did that come from?
I do. And my, obviously my real religious friends will, aspire that to being an end, and that's fine. I don't really care where it came from.
Yes.
The fact that it popped in my head and I was able to translate that into a 13 and a 15-year-old without sounding like a clinician or a dad, or a police officer or, a teacher.
Yeah, right.
But I said it in terms that they could relate, and they've both done things with it. That's all I care about. The genesis of the idea is not that important to me. And I don't get too wrapped up in that stuff. I believe in doing good. And again, I think morality can be something that you can find from within. And I've made mistakes. I certainly have made many, as have you, and as have James and Jonathan and everyone else that's commenting. We've all made mistakes. And again, that's what makes us human. And my son always said to me, my youngest son said, Dad, they're only mistakes if you don't learn from them.
Oof.
I mean, that's wisdom from a 19-year-old, right?
Dang it, these kids.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's pretty good. I like that. So yeah.
I wish.
So, it's there aren't really mistakes. There's just chapters to our stories. It
is
footnotes.
It's absolutely.
Yeah.
And little prompts. I think it's a little, it's kind of,
you asked earlier about
guardrail.
Like what's next? It's like, next for me, Ken, is to meet people like you and to meet people that have a desire. I want to learn a lot about your tour you did. Find a way to have you come to Cedar Rapids if you can pull that off. I'll make it happen.
I'll be close, actually. I'll share with you offline. I'll share with you where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
I went through Iowa, but I'm pretty close to Cedar Rapids again on my way back up.
Well, if you're close, I'll come meet you somewhere. We'll get a coffee.
That'd be great. Let's make 50. Will you be on the show? Let's pull some questions on the jar.
That would be phenomenal. I'll give you a copy of the book, and we can do a photo op, and we can meet each other, and we can cry and hug. And
I would need a good cry on that one, man. If I saw you, I'd have to hug you and cry.
I'm a hugger. I'm a crier and a hugger, and I'm proud of it. And I think more men, especially young men.
If you can cross me over to the cry side, it might be all right. I won't hate you for that.
No, I've always felt comfortable doing that, and I don't know. I think for young men today, they need to know that it's, it's okay to be you. It's okay to cry. You cry by yourself. You can cry in front of people. There's no shame in that. It's strength for a man. It's strength for a man, I think.
It is. I mean, Jessica commented up on top, vulnerability.
Right.
And, there's a lot of strength in being vulnerable, because you can go all the way down to that. You can go to that level of yourself and embrace your emotions in a good way. Like you said, not in a negative,
Yeah.
outpouring way, but in a good release way, and find that vigor out of it. But vulnerability, man, I wish I knew that when I was younger.
I saw a word that James said there, and I appreciate James is having some awesome comments there.
I know he's crushing it right now.
Yeah.
James, you've got to come on the show, darn
Yeah,
it. 'Cause
we'll just get you on the show, and I'll get off and let you get on, James. You're doing great. No, I see the word tragedy, and I do want to make a comment on that. And I say this again because I think I've earned a seat at the table to make this comment.
Absolutely.
All right. And I don't think my situation's tragic.
Yeah.
I don't. I think tragedy is a baby drowning in a pool. I think tragedy is your parents getting killed by a drunk driver. I think tragedy is a 7-year-old being molested by their stepfather. That's something they had nothing to do to fix.
Yeah.
Your child dies of an overdose and your spouse dies of alcoholism. That's unfortunate and unnecessary, but it's certainly not tragic because it was preventable.
Yeah.
It was preventable.
Slow.
So I have a different definition of that word. I don't allow anybody in my bubble to tell me that what I went through is tragic. And that, again, I don't argue with them. If they want to say it's tragic, fine, so be it. But I don't accept it. It could have been prevented. Did not have to happen. And in my definition, that's not a tragedy. But I see where people affix that word to my story because it sounds tragic. But it was preventable. And you know what's worse, Ken? It was predictable. Both my son and both my wife's deaths were predictable. And that's what pisses me off. And that's why I'm here to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else.
That's what came across, that word popped into my head when you were going through the definitions. I was like, it kind of was predictable, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's like you have two people you love on a train.
Yes.
It's going 1 inch a day, and it's going to go, 4 years, and it's going 1 inch a day. That's what it felt like I was going through when I watched this unfold in my life. I could see it coming. I could see it coming for me as an alcoholic. I could see me dying.
Yeah, you saw it. Yeah.
But I was running my own train, so I could put the brakes on and get off. But you can't do that with someone that doesn't want to get help. So again, I love advocacy. I love what I'm doing. Raising awareness is not working. It's not working.
No.
Because the best example is everyone knows what fentanyl is, but deaths have gone up 100% in the last 6 years. So knowing more about fentanyl isn't getting people to live.
It's not
working. Locking people up isn't stopping the war on drugs. I mean, cutting prescription opioids 50%, deaths went up 100% the next decade. So, not everything's linear. So again, raising awareness, it's great. I think we need to keep doing it, but that's not working. We need to do something else. And I think we need to bring attention to, not raise awareness. And the difference is this, Ken. Raising awareness is in your face. Here's a picture of my son. Don't do drugs. You're going to die. Blah, 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 blah. Bringing attention is, I'm going to tell you my compelling story, and you're going to come into my house. I'm going to come into your house.
Yeah.
We're going to hug. We're going to cry. We're going to share. We're going to inspire hope and love. That's bringing attention to an issue, not in your face, protests and yelling at people and fighting on social. That's a waste of time. Certainly a waste of my time. I have no desire for that. I have no hate in my heart. Even the individual that sold drugs to my son, I don't hate that person. I'd be shocked if that person's even alive today. Most of those people don't live long. So
that they're not alive.
Yeah. And if I'm going to make a difference and leave my imprint, it's going to be on love and inspiration. And that's what I'm going to do.
It's all about action, right? I mean, I think what you're kind of for me with that summary is that, one is words, right? One is words, and it's worse as it's screaming and it's in your face. It's not the nice way to do it. And the other one is the actions, going out and seeing people, touching humans, real, the tagline for my show, my regular show is real people, real conversations. And I really wanted to get out and hear, much like you shared today, Jeff, is a real story from a real person, having a conversation about it. And this has been a great episode for me because it's a bit like the jar in some way, but because your story is so powerful, and it's a
I, I
great
had a
story about mental health.
I had a good mom friend of mine whose son took his life, and she's got a phrase I think your followers and listeners would love, and I really think it's true. Connection is protection.
Oh man,
Isn't that great?
that it,
Connection
re-
is protection. The
it
more we can connect with each other and be intimate and share and love and laugh and cry, it builds this resiliency around you like a bubble.
yes,
It protects you, I think. I love
I
that.
as soon as you said it, it strikes me as it's the last cutting of the rope when people lose their boats tied to each other. The connection. When the connection
Maybe that's
goes.
the name of your show.
Hmm.
Connection is
Connections.
protection, all things mental
Connection.
health.
I love it. Connection is protection.
Haha, there you go. Just send me
It is.
a dollar royalty every
Send $50.
time somebody uses
Yeah.
it. Oh, by
What's
the
your
way, I
name?
didn't tell you. I did trademark that, by the way. I didn't tell you. So now you
I'll,
owe
I'll,
me. No, no, I
I'll go
love it.
find it.
She said that, and I thought, God, that's really good. Connection is protection. I like that. I like
It
that.
is. You're just tied, like you said. You've got a connection. We're tied to each other. Well, look, we are all on. We're
Yeah,
all little frequencies.
yeah.
We're all frequencies together, and for sure, there's that little modem. Meh, where we're just
Hmm.
walking through life, and if you lose that, especially among your family and people close to you, and you're just, you go into like a force field mode, and then no one can touch you.
Right. Yep.
You're off on your own.
Yeah.
Um, and Jeff, some of the stuff you said, I think we'll talk a little bit later, and we'll get to know each other a bit
Yeah.
better. But a lot of the stuff you talked about, stuff I cover in my book,
Hmm.
topics. So I think we have, we have a lot in common, but a lot in common at the
Well,
same time.
I'd like to get you on my podcast, and I'd like to have you be a guest on my radio show
Love it.
that we do every once a week. And on our tour this summer, we're going to be having 3 stages.
Okay.
Where are you located again?
So I'm here in Atlanta now. I'll be in
Okay.
Florida. I'll be in Florida most of April, and then I start head to Mississippi. I'm going to go across to Texas, a little bit up towards you. Before I go to Texas, a little up towards you, towards Nebraska,
Okay.
and then back down. So
Well,
I've
we're
got a
going to
map on
be
my website.
yeah, our tour, we just spoke with the president of NAMI for Florida,
Okay.
Ashley Grimes, and she's going to be doing a big event for us. I don't know where yet in Florida, but and we're going to be spattered around about 17 stops in July, September, and October. And I'm
Okay.
taking my big RV on the road. I call it the mental health magnet. You wouldn't believe the conversations we get when we're at like a gas station or a KOA and people come up and they're like, "What's living undeterred?" And I tell you what, like in 5 minutes, we're all crying, we're all hugging each other.
I love-
It's like I can hug a 6'6", ex football player that was in the Marines. We're crying like little babies. I don't even know him, and he's a man, and it's like 10 o'clock at night.
I,
I love what I do. I Seth and
I
Prudence
just
touched my
love it.
life in a way that I don't know. Seth is like doing more than he ever imagined he would do.
This
Um,
is it.
yeah, yeah. So it's like, yeah, I have to do this. I'm compelled to do this. I'm not going to wallow in misery. My bad times are bad. They suck, but I get through them. But man, I'm fortunate, and I'm happy we met. I'm happy you emailed me. I'm happy that here I am on your show, and I want to reciprocate it, get you on my show, and we'll just keep building from there.
Let's go, Jeff. Great to meet you. Thanks so much. And again, one more time,
Yeah,
just
the website, if people want to reach me,
yeah. How
it's
do they
pretty
reach you?
simple. It's pretty simple. My email is just jeff@livingundeterred.org. So
Okay. Living on
jeff@livingundeterred.org. My website's just www.livingundeterred.org.
Okay. Super.
Pretty easy.
That's a great way to find you. And again, Jeff, thanks so much. Wow. I mean, I'm really glad we didn't have the pre-chat.
I kind of didn't want to say much because I knew it'd be 45 minutes. You'd be going, damn, we got to go. We got to tape this.
Yeah. I mean, whoo. Okay. You pulled the rug out on me on that one.
Yeah.
It's so
It's all
great to
good.
meet you.
You
Thanks,
as well.
everybody. James, Jonathan, for listening and commenting. I mean, that's so powerful. That means a lot to myself, and I'm sure for Jeff,
Yeah. Thank
to
you.
be able to touch people live and have someone, take time to listen to what we're doing and carving out some space. Again, thanks everybody so much. And Jeff, I'm going to see you somewhere, my friend.
Oh yeah, you won't be able to get rid of me. So